Right, I feel like a lot of people think they understand the Bravado story because they think it's just a replay of the Renegade story. It's like people come from a different region. Obviously, the secret hack that you guys have is you all speak English. Yeah, make all the jokes about the accents, everyone. But obviously, the joke is that you can just go to NA, and not only, first of all, is it not that hard from these countries to get the visa probably, but secondly, you can have NA players. You can be in NA Hogs, right? Was there actually a vision when you got this offer to come to North America of like, it'll only be South Africans and we'll stay South African? Was it ever even the idea of like, if we go, then eventually probably we will bring in like Americans and stuff? What was the actual idea of going there?
Oh, yeah. So when I first joined, they were actually ready to move. They were ready to move to the US. So they actually had to wait a whole year for me to finish high school because that was my last year of high school.
Right.
So like the plan from the start was to move all of us to the US to see if we can qualify for big events, to see how well we can do. There was never like back then it was kind of like we were a family. Like we were going to go through it all, just make sure like this is the team. We're going to do as much as we can, get as good as we can together. And it was like I never even thought about like roster changes for at least like the first 6-7 months of the team, because it was just like kind of like a passion project for us. They were all just there learning together. We weren't making any money besides prize money. We were like staying in the house together, sharing rooms, that kind of thing. So it was, if you want to compare it to anything really, it's more like similar to like what the Brazilians did when they were just like pretty much have like no money and just like we have to
Slumming
win.
It a bit,
Yeah, we have to win, otherwise we're gonna go home. Like, and we were pretty close to like going home for a few times, and we were able to like push through, but eventually. Obviously, it didn't work out with Bravado, but I'm sure you asked me about that later.
Right. One thing I did want to ask was, I was actually also shocked when I looked up on the Wikipedia. Like, the TC guy was there the whole time. This guy's just like actually a mega vet because, you know, like coaching itself, even in this era, wasn't that like big a thing in Europe and North America. Like, it's still kind of like you had just someone who had the role. Like, he's been with you a long time now. Who's this guy then?
Yeah, actually, if you follow like the whole timeline properly, it's actually been TC and I's team the whole time. Like every single time we've moved the organization, it's been like an actual like team move. So like we moved from Bravado to ATK to Cloud9 to Extra Soul to Complexity. It was like a team move every time. So it was like me and him just being together this whole time. He was there in Bravado when I initially got picked up. I think he got there like 6 months before me, and if I'm not mistaken, it was his idea to like pick me up and one of my teammates back then. So since then, like we've just been working together, getting better together, and he's just like a really hard worker, and we've never had any issues. So there hasn't been like any talks amongst ourselves to like find a different coach. I'm sure when I was playing bad, I'm sure like GMs and stuff have asked about replacing me, and maybe they have looked into stuff like that. I'm sure they have. Like that, I've had obviously bad moments, but for me, I mean, like I haven't had another coach, but I feel like any other coaches wouldn't do as good as a job as he
has. Have you had some kind of special connection with him that you've stayed together for so long?
I mean, we're obviously friends, we're family. Like it's not really family, but we're family from like the Bravado days, and it just feels like we know how each other work, and just especially like when we're like away from home and stuff like for so long, it's just it's easy to work with him, in my opinion. Just like he's a really happy guy. He's very charismatic. So we've never had like any players have an issue with him. Like I actually can't name one player that's like mentioned like making a change or anything like that, or like mentioned that he was doing something wrong. I feel like he's just been working hard since we got him, and he deserves the job. So it's not like something that we're not just friends and that's always on the team, or like that's why I'm on the team. Like we've both just been working hard since the beginning.
One thing I noticed that you went through is it's funny that you guys moved all the way to North America, hoping like, right, we can sort of like get better practice and level up our pro game, because what you walked into was actually the exact same nightmare that actually the lesser North American teams have, which is you're in the scene and you're in those like invite level leagues. But the problem is to actually reach a LAN is really fucking hard because you have to play like 1 billion of those online qualifiers till you get through. And you know how those qualifiers are, where it's just like you play 1 million matches in a row, especially when you're the unseeded teams at the beginning and you're not big enough yet. So like I've seen there's plenty of people who've been in the tier 1.5, tier 2 NA scene have had the same problem, mate, where you can play almost a whole year from like a team house playing, and you play top teams, but you never qualify for the LAN. You're always coming like 7th, 8th in the qualifier, or you miss it by one spot, or they win map 3 or something. And the problem I've heard with that is, first of all, to a fan of like top level CS, you're just invisible because they don't see you at the LANs, but they don't know as a result. You're not just sat at home, you're actually grinding like a motherfucker. It's just all online play. I've heard it's actually kind of like, can be a mental challenge to go through that. What was it like for you? It was almost like a year it took you guys to reach like a proper LAN when you were in NA.
Yeah, I was obviously like it was just a grind. I think we actually did well like really quickly, but the games we were winning were not like the games to qualify. Like we won main firstly, and then we won our first MDL season, but it was just a practice season, so it meant nothing. We just got like a bunch of money, and it was just like, well, I wish we won the next. Yeah, season.
People don't know that it was back when they did alternating seasons, right? One would just be a normal season, then the next one was the one with like the promotion aspect, and this was the one in between, I'm guessing, then, right?
Yeah, it was just the one in between, so we didn't get anything from that besides some money. We kept getting to like every close qualifier, and then we would just like pretty much lose after like a few games, and we would never get to the LAN because NA pretty much just had like 1 or 2 spots each time.
Yep.
And there was a lot of teams back then. It was actually like a really good time for NA. Yeah. But yeah, it was a long stretch that we didn't really get anything. We had our South African qualifiers still. Like we went back home and played WSG and make sure we went to that. I think we did eventually like make some other LAN. I don't really remember. And then we also played, I think at the end of the year, we eventually qualified for DreamHack Winter, which we did pretty well at.
Yes.
So like, it did take us really long to like actually qualify for anything meaningful. Like we pretty much were like maybe had to like put us in a ranking, like we were like top 8 in NA, like pretty quickly, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. So it was like, we need to just keep grinding, and like the gap, I think the skill gap between like the top 3 NA teams back then and the rest of them were just like so big that it was really hard to like kind of break through.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.